Okay, welcome everyone. As we are sponsored by AB Spry, for Shalema for Taiba Reis Bas Hinder, and for Great Zivugim for their daughter and grandchildren. We are sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yodaya, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef ben Tzim ben Yaakov Zev, and for a great Shidduch for Chayet Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel, by Baruch Ian, Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKayin, and L'Refur Shalema for Liba Bas Anya, for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel, Ben Bela Shendel Rivka. We are sponsored by Menachem Umansky. Those are looking for a shidduch should find it quickly and easily, and by Eddie Chazan for the safety of Klal Yisrael and for the Hatzlacha of the IDF and their protection. We are holding by the Mishnah on the bottom of Nun Beis Amid Beis. Mishnah on the bottom of Nun Beis Amid Beis. So the Mishnah says, a guy could nullify his getchka or the getchka of a fellow guy. V'Yisrael ein mevatel avodas kechavim shel ovid kechavim. A yid cannot be mevatel the getchka of a guy, and surely not his own getchka. Ha-mevatel avodas kechavim. If somebody is mevatel his idol, mevatel mishamsheh, automatically its accessories are nullified. Bitel mishamsheh, but if he is mevatel its accessories, mishamshem mutar, the accessory is mutar, but behi asura, the idol itself is still asur. Okay, again, we're starting the Gemara, Nun Beis Amid Beis. Gemara, Nun Beis Amid Beis. Masnile Rebbe, L'Reb Shimon Rebbe. Rebbe taught his son, Oived kechavim mevatel avodas kechavim shaloi v'shel chaveiro. A guy could nullify his getchka and the getchka of a friend. Amalei, so Reb Shimon told his father, Rebbe, Shani salanu biyaldu secha, you taught us in your youth that Oived kechavim mevatel avodas kechavim v'shel Yisrael. An Oived kechavim could be mevatel avodas kechavim shaloi v'shel Yisrael. Says the Gemara, the Yisrael mika mevatla? Can an idol of Jews be nullified? V'havas samba seser ksiv. It says that you have to put it in Geniza. So it can't be nullified. Rav Hillel berei de Rav Valis. So Rav Hillel, the son of Rav Valis, explained, it's talking about where the guy and the yid had a partnership. Biyaldusai ma'ikasava, what did he hold in the youth? Ubeziknusai ma'ikasava, what did he hold later on in his senior years? Biyaldusai savar, that if a guy and a yid has a partnership in an idol, Yisrael adaita de'ovid kechavim palach. The yid worshipped it because of the guy. Kevan de'ovid kechavim avatal denavshe. Once the guy renounces it, the Yisrael nami mavatal. Automatically the yid says, he realized it's narishkeit, I was relying on him, so I'm also mavatal it. Ubeziknusa isaver Yisrael adata denavshe palach. The yid made up his mind to worship it. So ki mavatal oived kechavim denavshe, he could only mavatal his part. The Yisrael loy batal, he cannot be mavatal the part of the Yisrael. Some teach this discussion on the Sefer. And as the Olam is joining us in progress, we are holding 2 lines from the bottom of Nun Beis Amid Beis. Some discuss this discussion on the Sefer. Yisrael einay mevatel avodas kechavim shalovid kechavim. A yid cannot be mevatel the getchka of a guy. Says the Gemara, Pshita. That's obvious. Why should the yid be able to nullify the Avoda Zara of a guy? Amar Rav Hillel Berei, the Rabbi Valis. So Rabbi Hillel, the son of Rabbi Valis, explains, it's telling you where there is a partnership in it. The Kamash Malon Yisrael who delay Mavatal David Kechavim, that a Yid cannot be Mavatal, the part of the guy's idol. Aval David Kechavim the Nafshe Mavatal, but the guy could nullify his own portion of the Avoda Zara. Now, Ikanamasna, some teach the ensuing the aforementioned discussion a brisa, on a brisa that was taught. Rabbi Shimon ben Manasya Omer, Avodas Kechavim shel Yisrael ein lo b'teila ilamis. The Avoda Zara of a Yid can never be nullified. My ilamis, what's the addition of ilamis? Amar Rav Hillel Breid Rav Valis like Nitzchel sheyesh lo la'ovid kechavim b'shutfis. Its chiddush is if he has a partnership with a guy, and you shouldn't say that the Yid was only worshiping it because the guy worshipped it, but no, the Kamashman, the Yisrael Adaita, the Nafshe Palach, he was worshiping it on his own. That part can never be nullified, as it says, with some Baseiser. Now, when you do nullify it, how is it nullified? What is the procedure of nullification? Says the Gemara, the Mishnah, Keitzad Mivatla. Kata Reish Ozna, you could cut off the tip of its nose, the tip of its ear, Reish Chaitma, the tip of its nose, Reish Etzba, the tip of its finger. Pachsa, you could dent it, Afal Pishalei Chisra, even if nothing is missing. We'll see it's talking about when you dent it in the face. Bitla, that nullifies it. However, rak b'faneh, if you spit at it, hishtim b'faneh, you urinate in front of it, gera, you drag it in the ground, zarak b'esatzaya, or you threw dung at it, harizuena b'tela, that doesn't nullify it. The guy is just angry at it for a moment, but afterwards he will calm down and continue to worship it. Mochra oy mishkana, if you sold it or you gave it as collateral, if the guy sold it or gave it as collateral for a loan, Rabbi Yomer Bito, Rabbi said since he treated it in such a way, he nullifies it. We'll see what the machlokes is in the Gemara. Says the Gemara, could you explain if you dent it, kiloi chisra, if it's not missing anything, but my bitla, why is it a nullification? Because he dented its face. Rakak b'faneh, spitting in front of it, v'hishtin b'faneh, urinating in front of it. How do we know that that does not constitute bittul? When you will be hungry, v'skatzef, and angry, v'kilel b'malkoi u'belakav, v'elahav, and you will curse its king and its gods, you will temporarily look upwards to God. But it says afterwards, but el eretz yabit, you will look back to the ground, to the earth, will be distress and darkness, but we see nonetheless, even though he curses the king and his gods, upon a lamala, but he'll return el eretz yabit. So the same thing, throwing at the dung at it, spitting at it, urinating at it was only a temporary thing. Machra oy mishkana, if you sell it or you give it as collateral, so Rabbi Yomer Bito, Rabbi says it's nullified, the Chacham say it's not nullified. Ziri Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ziri says the name Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yebi Ba'aba Amar Rav, Chad Amar Machloikis B'tzoyreif Oivik Kechavim. Machloikis is if you sell it to a pagan smelter. Aval b'tzayrev Yisrael, but to a Yiddish smelter, divrei akol bitel. So that's obvious. When you sell it to a guy, one man Yama says it's not nullified because the guy himself might decide to worship it. But if he sells it to a Yid, everybody holds that they know that the Yid will destroy it, and therefore it's nullified. V'chadamer b'tzayrev Yisrael machlokes. It's a machlokes by a Yiddish smelter, because the Yid, he might feel that the Yid, knowing that it's valuable, will sell it to another guy, and that guy will worship it. So he doesn't nullify it. That's the svara. According to this second version, b'tzayrev Yisrael machlokes aval b'tzayrev ovid kechavim divrei akol lo bitel. Everybody holds he didn't nullify it. So maybe they argue in both cases, by b'tzayrev Yisrael and by b'tzayrev Goy. Dashma the Amar Rebbe nirin dvarai kishemachra lechavla. My opinion that it's disqualified is when you sell it to a Yid who will destroy it. V'divrei chavrai, and the opinion of my colleague, shemachra la'oivda, that when you sell it to a guy who will continue to worship it. My lechavla or my la'oivda, ilema lechavla mamish, that it was clear that the one who bought it is going to destroy it, then how could anybody argue on that? And la'oivda mamish. So then, my time in the man yama bitel. What's the man yama reason of man yama bitel if you sold it to be worshipped? Or my time in the man yama loy bitel if you sold it to be destroyed? This doesn't make sense. Rather, says elalav lechavla. It means Rebbe says it would seem to be like me that it's nullified if you sell it to a Yid l'misha asa lechavla, one who is destined to destroy it, Umanu Tzaref Yisrael. La'oivda, and it would appear to be like my disputant, Lamisha Asad La'oivda. If you sell it to somebody that will worship it, then it shouldn't be nullified. Umanu Tzaref Avid Kachav. Now, since he says, it appears to me like me when you sell it to a Yid, it appears like my disputant when you sell it to a guy, that means that they're arguing in both cases. Ushma mina, says the Gemara, therefore, bein bezeh machlokes. So the Gemara says, well, not necessarily so. We want to welcome in everybody that's arrived late, and we are holding 3 lines above the wide lines on Daf Nun Gimel Amud Aleph, 3 lines above the wide lines on Daf Nun Gimel Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara, Loi, Hachi Kama, Amar Rebbe Nirin Devarai Lechaverai. My opinion that it's nullified is accepted even by my colleagues, Kishemachar Lechavla. When you sell it to a Yid who will destroy it, Omanu Tzaref Yisrael, She'af Chaverai, even my disputants, Loi Nechleku Alai, Ela Kishemachar La'oivda. When you sell it to someone who might worship it. Aval lechavla, if you sell it to a Yid, mightily that it is nullified. Says the Gemara, Meisvei, first wide line, on the bottom of Nun Gimel Amud Aleph, just getting underway over here, and a beautiful beginning of a new week on the Sunday evening, Meisvei. Halikeach grutois min oivdei kechavim. My father, together with a good friend of his, Izzy Fogel, alav hashalom, who passed away during COVID, he used to buy Colombian bags of silver. And sometimes they opened the bags and they were full of crosses. And they threw them out. So here is such a case. If somebody buys scrap silver from a pagan, and he finds in it If before he gave the money he took the bag, so since the seller is not goymer das until he gets the money, Yazir, he could return it. But if after he gave the money he did the kinyan meshicha, so yoylech liyam hamelech. Now, here's the problem. The guy sold the idol to a yid. See, Yisrael machlok is that even selling it to a yid is an opinion that's not nullified. Hamani Rabbanani. This is going according to Rabbana. But if you sell it to a yid, everybody agrees that it's nullified. Hamani, who would this be going like that you have to put it in Yam HaMelech? Says Gemara, that's because the one who sold it was selling sealed bags of scrap, and he didn't know that it had an idol in it. Shani Hasam Dadaita de Gutois oven. He thought it was just scrap metal. Adato Davidis Kechavim Lois oven. So there, since he didn't know it had an idol, it wasn't nullified. Tan Rabbanan, 2 lines from the bottom of Daf Nun Gimel Amud Aleph. Okay, we're looking up over here as we have already 30 Zoomers. Time to welcome everybody in. We welcome in Mel Zachter, Irving Fishbaum, Yaakov Warman, Yitz Fuchs, Eddie Chazan, Dr. Black, Shalom Fogel, Dr. Gaia, Victor Fried, Saba, Yisrael Fisher, Shimon Klein, Michal, Rabbi Kranz, Barry Cement, Barish Gesserman. I'm not sure who that is. Ben Sion Cohn, Gedalia Engel, great to see you, Gedalia. Shelley Zeitlin, Marshall Castle, good to see you, Marshall. You're back in Chicago? No, not yet. That's a hotel room.
Yeah, they don't want me back.
No, I understand. By the way, it's not just Chicago. Yeshua Shmula Eisenberg, Stephen Holtzman, Nachman Chapler, Moshe Lehman, Avram Mazepkowitz, A. Barbach, Ilya Shupman, Danny Vogel, David Helfgott. Okay, so now, still waiting for Ruvain Pollack. Tan Rabbana. Loiva aleha. If the guy gives the idol as a mashkin, or shenafla aleh mapilis, or there was an avalanche, there was a cave-in on the idol, or sheganvu list him, or it was stolen by bandits, or the owners left it and went overseas. They abandoned it. So now it depends. If the person tries, he's going to come to retrieve it, Kimmel Chamas Yeshua, like by the battle of Yeshua, they thought, we're going to see this means, they thought that they were going to win and come back to their getchkas, Eina B'Teila, B'Tzricha. And you need all these cases. That use it as collateral. Well, he didn't sell it. Since he didn't sell it, he didn't nullify it. If an avalanche caved in on it, since he didn't go after it to dig it from the rubble right away, look, it's there. When I get a chance, I'll dredge it up. It's there. When I want to dredge it up, shekilnala. Avav ganafta list him where robbers stole it. Since he didn't go after it, betulei batla tzricha. List him. You know why? Mishum desaver. He feels. If a guy took it, miflach palachla. If a yid took it, since it's expensive, I did the Damer Yakarin, mizavan la loivi kachavim o palachla. The fact that he abandoned it and he didn't take it with him, I might think that he's mevatel it. If he's planning to return to Milchamas Yeshua, ain't a betela. So the Gemara asks, by Milchamas Yeshua they didn't return. It says, we killed them all out. Says Gemara, Masin Lazar to Milchamas Yeshua ain't a betela. Midei Milchamas Yeshua mehader hader. Did they come back? They didn't come back. They all died. Hachi kamer. Im asidin Lazar harihu Milchamas Yeshua. Since they thought that they would come back, ve'ein lo betela ilamas, and therefore there's no bittul. Says the Gemara. Why did we have to say that it's dependent on Milchamas Yeshua? Say, if they plan to come back and retrieve it, what's this like the Milchamas Yeshua? Says the Gemara, there's an incidental lesson here. Milsa agav urcha k'mashmalan. There's an incidental lesson here. Ki hodam Rabbi Yehuda amar Rav, Yisrael shezokaf. Oh, this is a side that we learned earlier. Normally, if something is mine, somebody else cannot answer it, right? But if I designate it as an idol and show that I want it to be worshipped, then if you worship it, you could answer it. That's an interesting loophole. So the Gemara says, Milsa agavurcha k'mash malan. Ki adam Rabbi Yehuda Amarav Yisrael shezokach leveina leishtachav v'sala. A yid that sets up a brick, erect, to bow down to it, and a guy comes and worships it, asra. So although normally if a guy would worship my brick, it's not awesome, because I know the ma'aseh davar she'ein shalai. But when I set it up, so I show that I'm nicha, I'm Gali Daite, that I'm Nicha, that it should be worshipped, then if the guy worships it, he asks it. Says the Gemara, Minalan da Asra. How do we know this? Amar Reb Elazar, Kitchila shel Eretz Yisrael. The Amar Rachmana v'ashereyen tisrafun be'esh. The idolatrous trees, when we come into Eretz Yisrael, we have to burn in fire. Now that's a problem. Remember, Eretz Yisrael was given to our ancestors, to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. How could they answer the trees? Mirte Yerushi Hayalehem Me'avisayim Ve'in Adam Ha'isad Davar She'ein Shalai. They can't answer something that's not theirs. Ve'im Mishum Hanech Me'ikara. And if it's talking about the Asheras that were planted before it was given to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, so then before we killed the 7 nations, we should have asked them to be mevatel it. Then, bibituma ba'alma sagilu. Ella, says the Gemara, you know how they asked it? Midapolchu Yisrael le'egel. Since Klal Yisrael worshipped the egel, Galu adatayu denichalu b'avodas kechavim. It revealed that we're pleased with avodas kechavim, and then v'chi osvayv the kechavim shlishlusa did huavdei. They're doing our agency now. Once it's ours, at the time of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, we can't be mevatel it anymore because the Avoda Zara of a yid can't be nullified. Hachanami Yisrael shezakuk leveina gal yadate. He reveals the nichalei b'avodas kechavim, and therefore v'chi asa kechavim v'polch leishlichusa didei kechavim. But there's a technical problem. It says that when we worship the ego, we're nicha with Avoda Zara. Who says? Maybe we're only nicha with an ego. We're not nicha with other Avoda Zaras. V'dilma be'egel hu de nichalu, but b'midi achmin aloi, but nothing else. Amakra, it says by the ego, Eile Elohecha Yisrael. These are your gods. These is plural, which means Malamed She'ivule Elohos Harba. Says the Gemara, but Ema called the Bahadi Egel Nitzra. Maybe it's only at the time of the Egel. Mikan ve'elach nishterei, but afterwards when we did tshuva, it should be permitted. Says, well, you're right. But man moichach, who's going to know which is from when it was the time of the Egel and which trees are not from the time of the Egel? And therefore we have to destroy them all. Now, as I said, just getting underway over here with 31 Zoomers, remember that tomorrow there is no shear because of the Q&A at Irgun Shirei Torah. Now, if somebody wants to try to listen to the shir live, I'm not setting up Zoom, but I will try to set up Kol HaLashon. If my cell phone has good service, I will set up Kol HaLashon. And therefore, if you want to try to listen to it live on Kol HaLashon, it'll be live on Kol HaLashon. I will have my digital recorder, so that will be available as well shortly. I think what I'm going to do is right away, I'm going to put it digitally on YouTube, so that you could at least hear a audio of the Q&A. Now,
at 9 p.m.
9 p.m., that's correct. And Shelley Zeitlin is going to be the Shayel.
I thought he was a Shomer Safar.
No, he's a Shomer Chinam. Now, always get things wrong.
I learned it from my Rebbe, I'm sorry.
Now, Avodas Koichavim shehenichua oivdeha, a getchka that was abandoned by its worshippers, b'shas shalom, in a time of peace, so they should have taken it with them, muteres. B'shas milchama, but if it was at a time of war, asura, because we could say that they just didn't realize they were in a rush to save their lives, and the fact that they abandoned it doesn't mean that they nullified it. Bimusiyoi shel malachim, pedestals that were set on the route for the king, and when the king passed that route, they would put an idol on it, and the king would bow down. Harei elu mutaros, it's mutter. Why? Because they have a very temporary nature. They put it on only when the king passes by, and as the Gemara adds, and sometimes the king doesn't even take that route, and it's not even used at all, and therefore that's enough, not enough to cause it to be prohibited. Amar Reb Yirmiyah ba'Abba Amar Rav, Beis Nimrod. Now some learn that this is actually the Tower of Bavel, which had a pedestal with an idol on it. So Beis Nimrod, Harihi Kavedis Kechavim Shenichua Ivdea B'Shas Shalom. It was like an idol that was abandoned in a time of peace, umutter. Now, even though when they were scattered and Hashem, dispersed them, it was like a time of war. But they could have came back afterwards. If they wanted to, they could have returned. And since they didn't return, they nullified it. The bases that were put there for the kings, says the Gemara, because they put it on only when the kings passed by. Is it mutter? Shouldn't it be an accessory of Avoda Zara? Amar Rabba Babachana Rabbi Yechon Hachi Kamer. Mipnei shemamidin oisa b'shosh hamalachim oivrim or malachim manichin derech zu. Many times the kings don't take that route. V'holchem the derech acheres. So it's really of a very temporary, unsure nature, and therefore that's why it's not aser. Ki asa Ula, when Ula arrived, Yosef abisma pigima. He sat on a chipped base. There was a base of an idol that was chipped, and he sat on it. Amalei Rav Yehuda le'ula, v'Rav Shmuel dimrei tuvayu bimis shenifkam, a pedestal that's blemished, aser v'afilu l'man yama ein oivdim l'shvarim, that they don't worship fragments. Hani mili avedis kachavim zila bei milsalam miflach l'shvarim, because it's degrading to bow down to a fragment. Aval hai. But if the pedestal is blemished, lo yichbaslei, they don't care and they don't nullify it. So they said, although we have the highest respect for Rav and Shmuel, amalei man yov lana me'afer Rav and Shmuel u'malina ne'ainan. If somebody would give us of the earth of Rav and Shmuel, we would fill our eyes with it. In other words, we have tremendous respect for Rav and Shmuel, but in this we pass like Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. Even so, Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish dimrei tovayu bima shenifkam, a pedestal that's chipped, mutter. Va'afilu man yama oivdin l'shvarim, that they worship fragments. That's only an idol. The Kevin the Polcha, since they already worship it, Zila Bei Milsa, it's degrading Levitule to disqualify, to nullify it. Avalhani, a pedestal, if it gets shipped and it's not nice, you get a new one. Avalhani, Shakla Elai, or Maisi Bin Mesachrina. Tani Kavase to Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. We have a brayso like Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. Bima Shenifka Mutter. A pedestal that's blemished is mutter. Mizbeach Shenifkam Aser. A altar that's blemished is forbidden. Ad Sheyanates Rubai, until you smash the majority of it. Now, Heichadami Bimas, Heichadami Mizbeach. What constitutes a pedestal? What constitutes an altar? Rabbi Yaakov Baridi, Rabbi Yochanan, Bimas Evan Achas. A Bimas is one stone. Mizbeach is Avonim Harb, is many stones. Okay, I'm just going to pause a moment to change the channel over here.